Well, hello. In this video, I'm going to be talking about and show you how to install what we call a basket strainer. Now, this is primarily for your kitchen sinks. There's lots of different style sinks out there, lots of different types of basins, but it pretty much uses the same drain. Now, you might also see these on what they call a laundry tub or like a shop sink or something, but pretty much it's for your kitchen sink, and you're going to have at least one of these. You may have a garbage disposal on the other side, but there's two different styles of these. There's an older style, and then they've got a newer style. So real quick, I'm going to break it down and show you what all you get when you buy one of these out of the box. Okay, so here's what you got. Like I said, there's basically two different styles. There's this one that's a little bit shallower. This is the old style. It's got this great big nut right here around it, and then they have a newer style which they've kind of simplified. It's got this big cup with a smaller nut, and I think the biggest thing here, and that piece just falls out, but the biggest thing here with these is this nut. Now the old style, which you don't see too much, but you might see in like a service type job, with your regular channel locks, it's really hard to get in here and grab this nut and tighten that up. So the simplifying they did was they put the smaller nut here, and it's a lot easier to get a standard pair of slip joint pliers on there. For this style, if you're going to be doing service, there is a big wrench thing. I tried to go find one. They said it was obsolete, and this is primarily what the guys are using. It is a slip joint, and it locks on there pretty well. Gives you a good grip on that thing. If I can get it here. There we go. Pretty neat tool. So if you're going to be doing some service stuff, I recommend you get you one of these, or if you're lucky to find one of those big wrenches. Now this guy can also do like water filter cartridges. I've even heard them being used for oil filters on your car. But pretty neat. Now, when you open this thing up out of the box, of course, this little thing is going to fall off on you. You're going to take that and set it up here on your sink somewhere and just kind of leave it alone. Something important. It's got this nut here, and they all come with this. You take that nut off, there's this little washer here. They call this a top hat washer or a top hat grommet. And you're going to want to save that. Don't lose that, because that goes to your top hat extension here, and it'll fit right in there, and that is how you hook up your P-trap and stuff. So don't lose that. That's important. And then, of course, on this one, you've got your great big nut here you can take off, and there is a paper washer and a rubber washer here, and you're going to want to use both of those. That paper washer gives you something for this to slide across as you tighten it up. On this one, they've changed it. You still got that top hat piece there. Don't lose that. And it's got the smaller nut with this nice cup thing here. Cool thing about this cup thing is if it does kind of leak up under here a little bit, the water's going to run out into this little cup, and it's not really going to go anywhere. So this is a pretty neat idea they came up with. So that's pretty much the two different styles you're going to come into contact with. This is the newer one. If you're doing new construction, you're probably going to see a lot of these. These are the older style ones with that great big nut, and you're going to want a special tool. You can get it with a regular pair of pliers, but sometimes when you're doing service, these things have been around for a while, and that nut is on there pretty good. So I recommend you pick up something designed to do that. The next thing I want to talk about is something that in the plumbing world has always been a really big debate amongst plumbers. You're going to have to seal this top part here where it joins your sink, and you're going to have to seal it with something. And there's pretty much two different ways. You've got your putty, your plumber's putty, which is what your new construction guys prefer, and you've got silicone that you got to put in a little caulk gun. Now, your service guys out there, they're going to swear up and down on the silicone. and you'd run a little bead around here and push that thing down. This is really good. It's a really good adhesive, but in new construction, after you've been there, somebody might damage this basin. They might scratch it, or they might be working on a light or something and drop a heavy tool down in here and put a nice little dent in it. Well, in new construction, it's hard to sell a house with a dented sink, so they're going to replace this sink, and you're going to have to remove your drain lines, your strainers, and your garbage disposal, if you've got one, off of this sink. That's difficult to do when you silicone the crap out of it, because this does dry pretty hard. It's a good seal, but in new construction, we prefer the putty because it comes apart a lot easier, and it does provide a good seal, and it will last for a long time. But like I said, that's always a big debate amongst plumbers, whether it's putty or silicone, and some people have their preferences. I prefer the putty. One of the disadvantages in new construction is a lot of time you don't have water. You can't clean up. This is a lot easier to clean up than this stuff, and I wouldn't want to give an amateur plumber, somebody who's still just kind of learning the ropes, silicone, because I would be afraid they'd make a mess. With this stuff, it's really easy to clean up, but they both work really well. First steps here. Putty. I'm going to use the putty. It's what I teach the guys in new construction to use. What you're going to do is you're basically going to make a Play-Doh snake. Y'all remember these when you were a little kid? You make a little old Play-Doh snake, take the top part of your basket strainer and just lay that stuff around there. Now, I will go ahead and warn you, if it's cold, this stuff gets kind of hard and it's kind of difficult, so you might have to knead it around in your hands a little bit. And I always take my thumbs and push it down like that. And then there again, in the summertime when it's really hot, this can get kind of gooey. I always recommend that you keep your jug of putty in the cab of the truck with you, or your vehicle or whatever, when you're driving from the job site, or keep it inside if you're in a finished home that's got heat and air on. That keeps it a little more stable. But if it is cold, you are going to want to kind of warm that up a little bit to prevent you from having leaks. But that's what you do, and then you're going to put it down here in the hole like this. You're going to watch it, try to get it squished down and lined up. Now you're going to go underneath. Remember how you took this thing apart? You're going to put it right back together the way it came apart out of the box. We've got our top piece already here installed. It came with the rubber washer and the paper washer, and then of course this is the new style with the big cup. It's going to go on, like I said, just like it came off, and you're going to slide it up on there. These are pretty simple, really easy to do. Now when you're doing this stuff, always see how easy that moves? Always hands tighten this stuff. If it's not moving up and down like that, you've got it cross-threaded. But you should be able to get it pretty good by hand. Now, you get it there, and the next step is get your pliers on there. Give it a couple turns. Don't get it too tight. Just get it kind of started and snug. And then you're going to go up top and you're going to look at it. See how that putty started squishing out? You're going to want to peel that up. Don't leave this stuff sitting in when you're done. Don't leave it just sitting there. You're going to want to clean this stuff up because this stuff can stain your sink if you leave it sitting there long enough. It's got oils and stuff in it. It can even leave a wet spot on your granite countertop if you leave it there too long. So clean this stuff up. Don't just leave it laying around. And then chunk the leftovers back in your putty. Save that. There's nothing wrong with it. It's still clean. Now, if it's got a bunch of dirt and stuff in it, you need to chunk it. But you're going to want to bounce back and forth from underneath to up here. And I don't know if you can see, but this drain is not centered. Once you go into there and you put a wrench on it and stuff, you can move this thing around. So you're going to want to look, and as long as you don't have it too tight, you can go underneath, grab it, and just ever so gently line it back up. Push it back into place. Now, some of these things will have a brand name written on them, especially when you're dealing with garbage disposals. You might have the brand name of the garbage disposal stamped on here, or it might say garbage disposal. you want that straight where you can read it. You don't want it twisted off to the side or over here. It's all about looks, especially if you're doing new construction or if you're doing service and you just charge somebody a whole bunch of money to put this thing in. You want it to look pretty. The cosmetics of this stuff is 70% of what your homeowners see. As long as it doesn't leak and it looks good, you're fine. So now you're gonna go back underneath and finish tightening it up. All right, we're gonna tighten this nut on down. Now you're really gonna wanna get on that thing. And watch it. Watch what you're doing. You want this to kind of mushroom out, this little rubber grommet here. When you're dealing with a stainless steel sink, there's not so much of a danger of shattering it. Like a porcelain sink, you gotta kind of be careful and you gotta listen, because if you tighten it down too much, you can break that porcelain sink or damage it. But the next thing is, you're gonna take your top hat extension here, slide your little nut on there, and your top hat washer. You put that right in there. Place this up on here. Watch your alignment, and then you can always start this with your hand and make sure it gives that spin. Should spin nice and easy. And then you're gonna want to tighten that up too. Now be careful here. And watch, see how that thing spun? It shouldn't spin. A couple more cranks on that. And that's basically how to do it. I'm going to put out some more videos in this series. I'm going to try to keep them short. We're going to go from here, and sometimes you might have a second basket strainer over on this side, and you're going to have a special piece called an in-outlet waste that goes here, that goes into your P-trap assembly. Or if you've got a disposal, you're going to have what they call a disposal waste that goes here, that goes into your P-trap. But that's pretty much it. Well, there you go. There's a short little video on how to install a basket strainer on a kitchen sink. Just remember, if you're doing service, you're going to have one there that's going to need to be removed, and removing stuff in service is one of the hardest things to do. It takes up the most time. And new construction, it's brand new. It's never had one of these before, and it's pretty easy to fly through these things. Of course, after you get this build, you're gonna test it. You're gonna spend some time with it, look for leaks, make sure you're good to go. I'm gonna put together a couple more videos here, piece by piece, and we're gonna assemble this whole sink. So stay tuned.